Hey, it's Mac with PriceActionTradingSystem.com, and it's Monday, April the 22nd. I'm back. Most of you know, if you watch our videos every day, I took Friday off. I was on vacation that day. I've got a couple of questions. Let's just look at it real quick. It looks like it was a pretty much, I would say we were kind of, we had a downtrend. It looks pretty basic to me. Some people said they had some trouble. You see that downtrend line, we broke it. There's your new low, and then we rallied the rest of the day. First couple of swings, we broke it. Two swings up to a new high. I mean, pretty standard stuff. I don't see any reason why Friday, if you follow that first trend line, maybe you had one, let's just see, even earlier. Kind of had one up through there. We broke it, new high. We're trending down. We break it, new high. We're trending up. We break it, new high. Two legs to a new high. I mean, pretty standard stuff. Even if we went over here, let's just see what. I mean, that's just doing a cursory glance, and you might have even had a channel. Let's just see what it looks like. Yeah. You really even had a channel right there, and you kind of got your first early breaks here. You can see everything mostly above the EMA up through there, and I mean, it's pretty standard. I don't see why anybody should have really had much problem with that price action. I mean, just a quick glance, and I could spot the first two moves. Trend lines were relatively easy. Today was a little harder to find. If you use these first couple of swings, off of the overnight, you should have been able to find this channel, and it may have even expanded a little bit. You can see if you move that out and you move that out, you get a bigger channel. But I believe, if you come off those first two swings there, or those first couple of low at the lows, that gets you where you need to be, and that's what I saw. This was the really only confusing part, and we may just have a range here, and you can see I've got the highs and lows marked, and this was really the only confusing part. I was looking for a retest of the lows still here, but this, we had a good enough break up here that if you consider that, there's actually a couple of legs down. There's leg one. And then there's leg two, a perfect measured move. So we really had it there. It was a little harder to find. Sometimes the overnight stuff comes into play. Sometimes it doesn't. I mean, it's all part of the price action, so you want to see it on there. But a lot of times these breaks aren't good enough, and you need another break. So, but there's also the fact that we maybe overshot down here, and sometimes when you overshoot, you only come back and test the channel, and if you draw it more like that, it's not really an overshoot there, but if you draw it like that, or you slide them up or down, you can see we broke out here. So I got a little confused there, because I honestly thought we'd come back down and test this low, but this might have been good enough up here, and plus the overshoot might have been enough. The one thing is, you can't argue with the trading, but you can see I took a short right here, and it was good for a scalp, so it wasn't a problem. It took a minute to work down, but once we got hung up in here, and then I drew the trend line off these first couple of swings and just drug it down, and you can see it comes into play right there, and you can't ignore that. And when you get that failed second entry short right there, kind of a double bottom right there across those lows. If you move that down there, you can see that, and really it was kind of right there, and we had a little failed break low. We got back inside, and then it's off to the races. So there is a possible long right there, but it was all shorts until right here. This was the last short I took. So there was a setup up here. I marked this when it was real early. It really was before I got in. This was the first trade up setup that I had a chance to trade, but I went ahead and marked this one. There's a little trap up there. Let me back out. Notice that one tick up there. It is kind of over a lot of congestion and stuff, but notice there's, two tries to go higher there, and that little trap. So really the ideal way to do this was to try to drop a limit order in here, see if you could get filled, and you would have. You can see it came back up in there. And if you could get filled on that with a, a small stop there, it was probably worth taking, because this is definitely a lot of overlap. I failed out the bottom. We couldn't even get out the top, and then we're selling. And there really was a second entry short here back inside the possible channel. So I guess I should have marked that one too. Let's just go ahead and mark it in case you saw it. There's a lot of overlap there, but you can't ignore. I mean, you're going to get that sometimes, and it's do you want to risk entering a trade? Excuse me. Do you want to risk entering that trade right there? And sometimes you just have to take a risk, especially if it's near strong support or resistance. And then we finally had a two-legged move up that broke back out of there, but that's a nice reversal bar. If you used a limit order here, you wouldn't have got filled. So if you didn't have your stop below that bar and it moved really quick, but I was able to get my stop in there and get filled, so I didn't have any problem. And guess what? It was off to the races on this one. Any runners were safe. You could have ridden this, and I exited right down here. When we went into this chop, I exited right in here. Went a little bit lower, then came back, but you get another chance here. And it's similar to this setup up here. Notice the little trap, and then it turns down. And again, I used a limit order in here, and when it broke lower, I was able to get filled on that. I think I was just right there at the lows. But normally when it breaks higher and turns down and it goes out the lower side, you can use a stop right there if it goes on through on the same bar. If it doesn't and ends inside, then you got to question it a little bit, and you probably either want to use a limit order or just kind of see what happens. The next low was here. This one I almost made green, but I took this trade, and so notice you got a little two-legged pullback, but you don't want to be going short right here in all this. But when it tried to go higher, there's a failed second entry, and it looked like it had a failed second entry short, and it trapped them one more time. And when you had that move there and turned down with that bearish bar, it was worth dropping a limit order in there, because at that point I'm thinking, well, maybe this is down here, and that's what ended up playing out the rest of the way down. I didn't think it was worth risking any more entries in here though, because this just got so choppy. And then I was looking for a chance to go short again because I thought we'd have a retest still. Turns out I was wrong, but I entered right here, same thing. It closed here and opened here. I dropped a limit order in here, and it came back and got filled. And it didn't matter even if you went short right there, you still would have got your scalp. And then when it got hung up in here, then I'm thinking, maybe we're going to do something different here. And we did. We had this little short trap, and then it went higher. I drew this one in blue. I wanted to make it green, but with this trap, it's worth taking almost. And this is really just another attempt to go lower here. So it's really like a little two-legged move with a failed second entry short almost. You'd have to go to a smaller chart to see that for sure. But notice that trend line. I drew this line up here first and drug it down, and you can see that it's holding prices right down through there. So I felt pretty sure we were at least going to go back and and check out, and try to test this high right here, and maybe even this one. And of course it ended up, any runners would have been safe on this trade, and you could still be riding this up over here. So pretty good trade. I drew this one in green. This is just a breakout pullback long. It's kind of in the middle. We haven't gotten back up to the high though, and there's plenty of room to get out there. So I felt like it was worth marking and talking about, because it does fit our criteria. So if you saw this one, it's a little more aggressive, but if you saw it, it's a good setup. And they trapped the shorts again, and you should have been thinking here at least a measured move similar to this leg. Of course, we're getting a whole lot more than that, but you can see that's where we started to find resistance again there, before we went a little bit higher. And somebody sent me an email today and asked me what I thought about this market. Is it just going to keep going higher? Is it going to sell off? And my personal opinion is I can't believe it's still going up, but it is, and you can't argue with it. And that's a good thing about learning to trade price action. is that don't argue with the market. If it's going up, you're looking to buy long, and that's what you got to tell yourself right here. When all this failed and it got hung in here, you got to say, hey, maybe this is a range day. Maybe this was good enough for the break. Maybe I'm reading it wrong. No matter what's going on, we're going higher. I got to get out of my shorts and go higher if I'm short in here, and I didn't get my scalp. And, you know, once you got past this entry, you know, there's not any more shorts in here. You don't want to be going short in that. So you kind of just want to ride it out and see what's happening. And then all of a sudden you realize they got them trapped to the short side, and then look how they ran. You know, you can see it hitting stops, and that's why it surges up out of there, because it catches all these people off guard. And all these people that got short coming down are now they got to get out, and that's what causes it to surge. And it just what they kept doing, surging it higher and higher. And this might have even turned out to be over here, but I believe that's it right there, because that's what helped me to find this lower line. And maybe it's more like that, but that's what I had originally right there. And I was done trading by this time. So but really good trading starting off the early morning. That's all you need to make that's all you need to make a good living, is that much movement every day. Or if you didn't get it there, on the way back up, plenty of movement on the way up. Some easy runners in here. So and that's pretty much it for today. But you know, sometimes the trends or the little channels are easy to find. Other times they're not. But even if you don't have this, I mean, all you got to do is look at the EMA and look at that. I mean, even if you just got on here and you draw this straight down right through there, I mean, that works. I mean, it still gets you in all of these trades. You should be able to see that. And if you bring that down to there, yeah, so you might even have, you know, I'm not saying, there's different ways to look at it. You don't always have to get it exactly right. I mean, that looks good right there to me too. So, I mean, you know, as long as you get it, usually if you're in the right ballpark and you get it right, you're going to be okay. And so, you know, even if you don't have any channels, you can see that we're steadily, consistently below the EMA, and every pullback to the EMA sends prices lower until you get in all this chop down here, and then it's less certain, and that's where you stop trading and you wait and see. But I believe this to be the original channel, and I found this more off the lows. I mean, you know, a lot of times when you draw it off the highs, you draw it through those first, where it touches the first couple of bars, kind of like that. And you know, I drew some different lines in here just to check, like if you came right off that high or if you came off of this. And you can see it coming into play on all these. So there were a lot of people that were obviously kind of searching to figure out what was going on. There's your low. Let's just, if you drew it off these lows and then drug it up, you can see you get something else in there. But nothing seems to be working off the high side, and that's just simply because the trend is up now, and you got to be going up. And but generally, all you got to do is get it close or be in the right ballpark. But that EMA pointing down and everything mostly below, most of the bars being below the EMA, that's a good sign. You need to be looking for shorts. And now you got just the opposite. We're pointing up, and most all your bars are above the EMA, so you're looking for longs. And here's some more entries in here that you could have taken. You know, draw your lines and pay attention to the EMA, and that'll help you a good bit. And some people get confused. I think I brought this up last week. Some people get confused. They think just because you go above the EMA, you're looking for longs, or you get below it, you're looking for shorts. That's not really what that's. The EMA, this is just a kind of a guidance. There's nothing, you're not trading based off the EMA, really. You're trading based off what the prices are telling you in relation to the EMA, and that's the majority of the bars. Notice coming down through here that the majority of the bars are below the EMA, so we're looking for shorts. Now, by this time, the majority of the bars are above the EMA. Doesn't mean you won't still get below it on the way up or above it on the way down. that's generally your clue to start looking for reversals when you start bouncing above it. But it's not uncommon to get above it like this and then come all the way back for a retest or even start another trend down. So you can't lose sight of what we mean by using the EMA to help keep you on the right side of the market. It doesn't, don't get confused, because every now and then I'll get an email from somebody that thinks, hey, we went above the EMA here, I should have been looking for a long, and all they do is get trapped, and it's easy money for the rest of us that are paying attention, that know what's going on there. And I mean, that's how this market works, is that, the weak traders are the ones that don't really know what they're doing. The weekends, they try to get long here up at this high when if they were going to be buying it all, it had to be down here off this low. And you can see that was an easy scalp up through there. I was tempted to take that trade, but it's too strong a trend down. There's no reason to be going long there unless you're a very aggressive trader and you know what you're doing. So there's multiple reasons that you might have thought about entering long there, but I'm not even going to talk about them, because that's what causes you to lose. Look what would have happened if you tried to go long here or here or here or here. You would have gotten stopped out quickly. This one would have worked, but you don't know which one of those is going to work and which one's not, and they're not worth the risk. So, but anyway, hopefully you had a good trading day today. Hopefully this is going to be another good. Last week was one of the best weeks. We just had a lot of movement, and Friday looks like it was a pretty good day too, and more good movement. So, and then today we've had good movement in both directions today. So plenty of chances to make money. Hopefully the rest of the week we'll continue to get this kind of movement. And, when you're wrong, get out and just reevaluate, and don't hang on to a losing trade. If you find yourself in a trade, let me say this, because I can remember being there back in the days. If you find yourself in a trade and you're hoping and praying and mad and begging for it to come back, you're wrong. Just exit. Don't play around with it. Just exit. And because most of the time you'll take a loss, but you'll save yourself a lot of money. And don't blow your account out, because the market can keep going in one direction a lot longer than you can last with your account, even a big account. So don't play with it. Take your loss. Don't take more than a 2-point stop. And so what if you take a full stop? It's only 2 points on a single if you're trading singles, or even if you're playing doubles, however. But per contract, you're talking about $100 per contract. You can come back from $100 loss, but can you come back from $1,000 loss or a couple of $1,000 losses? And that's what kills your account. Don't let it take your money. If you're wrong, don't argue with it. And if you find yourself hoping and praying that it's going to come back and you're going to get a chance to get out, that's your clue that you're wrong. And that's your psyche. That's that fear and greed trying to talk you into staying with it. And sometimes it will come back. But what'll happen is it'll come back enough that it'll give you a false sense of security. And then one day it don't come back and you'll blow your whole account on one day. I know, I've been there. I've done it. So, and I know that feeling. And so when you're telling yourself, please come back, and you feel that stress and that urge to hang on when it's going against you, don't do it. Just take your loss. I mean, more than anything, if you're following our strategy to the T and you're using the scalp and run, don't take more than a 2-point stop. If you're wrong, just be wrong, and you can make it back on the next trade. And I mean, there's plenty of chances to make a mistake in here today and still get it all back on another trade. So, and it seems counterproductive to take a hit and then scalp out on the next trade, but all it takes is a couple of trades, and generally you're back to scratch again, and then all you need is another winner or two, and you make money still. So hopefully that makes sense to you. But don't sit on a trade hoping and praying it's going to come back, because that's not a good sign. It's a sign that you're wrong and you're arguing with the market, and you can't argue with the market because it will take your money. So I'm going to wrap it up. Hopefully we'll have a good trading week, lots of movement this week, and we'll be back to do this tomorrow. So I'll see you next time. This is Mac with PriceActionTradingSystem.com.